Angles in Saturn's position in all quadrants, part 2. If we wanted to find our angles that crossed all of the axes, so our angles that cross the x and the y axis, we'd have the first one here, which is 90 degrees, the second one here, which is 180, the third one goes to 270, and the last one goes all the way around and crosses at 360. If we said that r was equal to 1, that would mean that the point for 0 degrees or 360 would mean you were going x over 1, and we're not going any up, so it would be 0. Our point here, we're going 0 left and right, and 1 up. We're going negative 1 and 0, and 0 and negative 1. We can use these numbers to find our primary trig ratios. So if we were to go for 0 degrees, my x is 1, and we know that r is 1, so 1 over 1 equals 1. Sine, our y is 0, and our r is 1, so it's 0, and tangent is 0 over 1, which is 0. For 90 degrees, our x is going to be 0, and r is 1, so it's 0. Our y is 1, and r is 1, so it's equal to 1. And for tangent, our y is 1, and our x is 0. And because we can't have an x on the bottom, we know that this is undefined. If we look at our 180, we can see that it's the same numbers as 0 degrees, except this time it's negative. So we know that cos theta is going to be negative 1, sine theta is going to be 0, and tan theta is going to be 0. For 270 degrees, it's the same as 90 degrees, except negative, so we have 0, negative 1, and undefined. And for 360, we have 1, 0, and 0. So you can find all of your values for cos theta, sine theta, and tan theta for your 90, 180, 270, and 360 degrees really easy. Also, if you type it in your calculator, all of them will work except for the tan of 90 and the tan of 270, because those are our undefined values. If we want to find our reference angle, we know that for quadrant 1, it's just going to be our angle. For quadrant 2, it's going to be 180 minus your angle. Quadrant 3 is going to be 180 plus your angle. And quadrant 4 is going to be 360 minus your angle. So that's just something you need to keep in mind. Determine all the angles that have the reference angle of 45 degrees between 0 degrees and 360 degrees with r equal to 1. And then determine the primary trig ratios for all the angles. So what we want to do is we want to find all of the 45-degree reference angles. So we know that in the first quadrant, it's going to be 45 degrees. In the second quadrant, it's going to be 180 minus 45, which equals 135. In the third, it's going to be 180 plus 45, which is 225. And and in the fourth it'll be 360 minus 45, which is 315. So these are all your angles that have the same reference angle. So we want to find all of the trig ratios. So the point for 45 degrees, our x is going to be positive and our y is going to be positive. So we have 1, 1, because we know that r is equal to 1. For 135, our x is going to be negative and our y is positive. For 225, they're both negative, so we have negative 1, negative 1. And for 315, x is positive and y is negative. So 1, negative 1. Now to find our ratios, we have to remember our 45-degree triangle. So this is good to just remember always. Your 45-degree triangle has two legs that are 1, and the hypotenuse is root 2. So star this, remember this forever. So cos theta is going to be our opposite over our adjacent, or our hypotenuse, so 1 over root 2. Sine theta is the same. And tangent is 1 over 1, so it's 1. Now, to find our next values, we can remember cast. So we know that for 135 in quadrant 2, only our sine is going to be positive. So cos will be negative, sine will be positive, and tan will be negative. In quadrant 3, only our tan is positive, so cos is negative, sine is negative, and tan is positive. And for quadrant 4, our cos is positive. So we have 1 over root 2, negative 1 over root 2, and negative 1. And we can fill in all of our ratios. For each of the reference angles, the only thing that will change about your ratios is whether or not it's positive or negative. Otherwise, the numbers will be the same. So for example 2, we want to determine the trig ratios for all angles that have a 30-degree as a reference angle. So we know that in quadrant 1, it's going to be 30 degrees. In 2, it's going to be 180 minus 30, so 150 degrees. In 3, it's going to be 180 plus 30 degrees, so 210. And in quadrant 4, it's going to be 360 subtract 30, so 330 degrees. So we know all of our angles. Now we want to find all of our trig ratios. So to remember for 60 degrees and 30 degrees, we can remember our triangle. So this is 60, this is 30, this is 1, 2, root 3. So remember this, it'll help you do your ratios. So for our 30-degree angle, cos is going to be our adjacent, which is root 3, over our hypotenuse, which is 2. Sine is going to be our opposite, which is 1, over our hypotenuse, which is 2. And tangent is going to be our opposite, which is 1, and our adjacent, which is root 3. Now to find the rest, we remember cast. So for quadrant 2, the only thing that's going to be positive is our sine. So we have negative root 3 over 2, positive 1/2, and negative 1 over root 3. For quadrant 3, our tangent's going to be positive, so we have negative root 3 over 2, negative 1 over 2, and 1 over root 3. And for our fourth quadrant, cos will be positive, and the rest will be negative. And that's how you find all your trig ratios. And example 3. To the nearest degree, which values of theta satisfy the equation tan theta equals negative 4 over 3 for 0 degrees is less than or equal to theta or less than or equal to 360. So what that means is we want to find all the angles between 0 and 360 that are going to satisfy tan theta equals negative 4 over 3. So first we're going to decide which quadrants it's going to lie in. So because of cast, we know that in quadrant 3 it's going to be positive, and in quadrant 1 it's going to be positive. We want tan to be negative, so we know it has to lie in either quadrant 2 or quadrant 4. So all we have to do now is find the measure of our angle. So find how many degrees our angle is. So we type it into our calculator. Tan theta equals 4 over 3. We don't have to worry about that negative anymore because we already know which two quadrants it's going to be in. So we're looking for our reference angle. So tan theta, or tan to the negative 1 of 4 over 3. So theta should equal 53 degrees. So we know that our reference angle in here is going to be 53, and our reference angle in here is going to be 53. So we use the formulas that we have for quadrant 2. We do 180 minus 53, and we get 127 degrees. And for quadrant 3, we do 360 minus 53, and we get 307 degrees. So either of these angles will satisfy tan theta equals negative 4 over 3.